Hey, welcome back, everybody, to episode 3 of Do That But Better. I'm Zach, and this is Eric. We are two brothers ready to take you guys through ownership. And what we want to do is talk about how ownership, why you need it, and how you can start embracing it to overcome every obstacle. All right, and really unlock your potential. So, Eric, how you doing today?
Awesome. The
How's the
weather's
weather out by
warm
you?
again.
Yeah. So same with us. So I think that we're supposed to be like 40 today or something like
Yeah, today I feel like it's for sure it's gotta be around 50, maybe warmer.
that. That's awesome. Yeah, definitely. It's like t-shirt and get out in the sun. Yesterday I was practicing just dribbling, and I tried to break it down to. I was like, at first I was like, all right, I'm gonna do like little crossovers, and then I was like, you know what? I'm doing right hand, left hand, like just up and down the street, and it was like the best thing ever.
Awesome.
Yeah. Well, all right. So we're going to take you guys into ownership. You guys, if you're catching us live right now, throw us a comment and let us know that you're here. We'd love to see who's out there. Um, ownership, Eric. When was like this is sort of a buzzword I feel like,
Mhm.
and where did you start hearing about ownership first?
So, I feel like people talk around it a lot.
Hmm.
Like, people are kinda saying the same thing different ways.
Hmm.
Um, I think it's more recently, once Jocko Willink put out his book,
Yeah.
Extreme Ownership, that people started putting that word to it.
Sure.
Um I think for a long time, like, I mean, you've heard people talk about, let go of what you can't control and, focus on what you can control. And that really is like what you're talking about is recognizing the things that you can influence and control and, and acting on them. So really, I mean, I don't know, you hear people talk about that. When it really sticks out to me is Lisa, my wife, started listening to what's his name, Jack Canfield's The Success Principles,
Okay.
and he talks about that a lot.
All right.
So that's where I think it first really started to I don't know, come to mind or like stick out for me.
Right.
Um, but then obviously Jocko starts to talk about it, and I guess I follow a lot of wherever he shows up. So yeah.
Yeah,
How about
I was
you?
I was the same way, especially with just the word ownership. But yeah, reading through that book, it was just it was so prevalent, especially when he started talking about being overseas and being in charge of other people. And actually, I started thinking about it for myself. So when I was a lieutenant at the firehouse, um, you know, there was certain things that as a lieutenant, you are responsible for your crew, no matter what. And it was a really strange thing, especially so if I'm sitting in the passenger seat and my driver gets in an accident, it's my fault. And you go, wait, no, that's not. Like talking to my kids, this was a huge. They're like, I was telling them about that, and they're like, that doesn't make sense. And it's like, no, it is because like I have the responsibility, and no matter what happens, I need to take responsibility for the situation because if he gets in an accident, then maybe I didn't train him well enough. Maybe I was not regulating. Hey, maybe we should slow down, or hey, it's icy. Whatever it is, it's like I'm overseeing everything, and it all falls on me. You
Mm.
know,
Yeah.
yeah. But we see this all the time in all aspects of life where we have a problem and we go, there was nothing I could do, or like if you're late for work, you're late for the gym, whatever it is, and you go, this happened.
Yeah.
And it the there's a couple problems with this. Like number one, when you do that, like so especially like let's just say being late, it's not making the person that you were late for, who you like took their time, right? You stole their time, and you go, well, this person in front of me, like, and there was a train, whatever it was,
Yeah,
and it doesn't make that person feel any better. You still stole my time,
totally.
and then it lets you off the hook. You go, oh, hey man, like the world is just, I'm just not lucky.
Right. I always get screwed. Everyone's against me.
Yeah,
It becomes uh, a pattern.
for sure.
Like it's a same story of like I got screwed. That story is just on loop, and all you ever see is how you got screwed.
Yeah,
Right? You never see what you did to mess up or what you could have done to do better. You only see everything out there is screwing me over.
yep. Actually, when I was at the Bobby Knight basketball camp, by the way, so such a fun time. Having Bobby Knight talk to a bunch of grade schoolers is just the most amazing thing ever.
I imagine it was basically like dodgeball, where he's like, if you can dodge a chair.
that was it. And he was talking about in a game how, and so actually, man, I can't even believe it. Yeah, it was very much like this. And you're yelling and screaming because you got called, you got a foul called on you, and you're like, what the heck, ref? And he's like, and people are going up and down the field, or up and down the court, and he's like, Alonzo Mourning never committed a foul, at least in his own head. And it would, because, and you think about how many people are like that, or how many times you've done that, and yeah, it's like, come on, I didn't touch him. But it's like, yeah, well, it doesn't matter if you did or not. And actually, I was told one time, I think it might have been my father-in-law, I forgot what we were talking about, and he said that you are responsible for your actions, even if you're not responsible for the situation that you're in. If you show up into a weird situation, and your actions are still your responsibility, even if it's a crappy situation, And I thought that was really cool. And now you're starting to take that ownership of everything that you do.
Yeah. Yeah. And that it's funny you were talking about being late, because this was on my mind this morning, taking Eloise to preschool, because the whole way it's like 25-minute drive, and it's like one lane each direction, double yellows pretty much the whole way. And there's a lot of truck traffic. There's a bunch of like oil rigs and whatever. And I was stuck behind two trucks. And I'm like, man, we are really pushing it. And I'm thinking, what could I have done? Like, I didn't have the girls ready to get out the door as soon as I usually do. I was doing like working on other stuff while they were supposed to be getting ready, and I wasn't like taking charge of making sure they were ready to go. Like, oh well, like I did not do everything I could have, and now this is the result. Like, it's not their problem that they're a giant truck and driving slowly.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And actually, I was just talking to somebody the other day, and we were working on pull-ups, and they said, I have small, weak arms. And I was like, it's BS. Like, small compared to what, and weak compared to what, and really, it's just like, oh, I need to work on them better. And lots
Are
of
they
times,
permanently that way?
right?
Or is
Yeah,
there something you can do about it?
exactly. Yeah, and it's like, actually, you know what else? I was just talking to somebody today, and they said that they're well, they said they're doing a 28-day challenge, right? And they're working on eating undistracted. And as they were doing it, they said, I'm bad at eating undistracted. And I was like, what do you mean? And they're like, well, like, in the morning I have this and this, and then I'm just running out the door and I just end up eating while I'm driving. And so one of the first things I did was I wanted to take her language out of it. Like I'm bad at eating undistracted. And it was like, all right, what is like the one thing that you could do to to help with this? Or where do you have the most trouble? And so now I have trouble eating undistracted. And you go, okay, now if I have trouble, what are the things that are getting in my way? Like now it's like identifying some obstacles. And so we talked it through and we found out that maybe instead of trying to have a big breakfast, it's like maybe I'm going to have a protein shake, which takes it takes 2 minutes to shake it up and sit down and drink it,
Yeah.
and it's like, oh, done. Or
Yeah.
maybe have some hard boiled eggs already made. And it takes 1 minute to eat a hard boiled egg,
Right.
So.
And now you've gone from I have trouble eating undistracted to I have solutions to eating distracted.
Oh, that's beautiful. I like that. But yeah, so yeah, let's dive in a little bit more on like where else do you see troubles with taking ownership?
Oh, literally everywhere. I mean, like if you watch the news, right? It's like the news, reality TV. It's we've like created a culture of drama, and that is, I feel like it's the foundation is giving up ownership of like it's. I'm hesitant to use the word blame because immediately everyone thinks I don't do that, right? You put up your walls, but really we all do it, and it's super easy to do. Um, like we said, like I mean, with your fitness, you could say, well, they were born awesome. I just don't have the genetics,
Hmm.
right? And so you've given away ownership of your fitness because, I mean, it wasn't up to you. It's just your genetics or your
Sure.
work. Well, they got the promotion because whatever, because of what they did. But like, what did you do, or what didn't you do? In your relationships, if you have a history of toxic relationships, like it's easy to say, I don't know, I just always losers are attracted to me.
Hmm.
Like, what could you be doing differently to attract different people?
Right. Actually, I love Zach Evanesh. He always say everything you have is exactly what you earn, and that is it hurts,
Yeah.
because you look at it and you go, wait a minute, and that doesn't mean that people aren't dealt just crappy situations, you know.
Right.
We're all going to have troubles, and there is going to be times where your your car is snowed in and you can't get somewhere, or you just make a bad decision, you know. But if we give that away, we're totally losing control of our life, and we're leaving it up to chance. And you
Hmm.
go, well, I hope something good happens. It's like standing outside your door and go, man, I hope I run a 5K today. It's like, no, like the first thing I could do is take a step or maybe put on my gym shoes and start walking towards that 5K.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, I guess so far we've talked about um, maybe the active side of it, of like
Hmm.
taking ownership of what you can do right now. Um, but like you just said, like owning your mistakes and your bad decisions. This it was like revolutionary for me. Man, I don't remember where I heard this, but for apologizing, just apologize. Zero buts or explanations. Like, sorry I'm late. There was a giant accident. There was no way around it, because no one wants to hear it. And it doesn't change the fact of what happened. It doesn't change the fact that you were responsible to be there. whether or not there was some crazy like act of God that stopped you. You
Hmm.
just say, I'm so sorry I'm late.
Yeah.
And that's
Oh,
it.
that's
And you take ownership for it. And it feels terrifying at first. And once you do it, you realize like it ends all conversation. Like there's no more blaming back and forth. They aren't holding resentment because like because when you try to explain it, you are trying to shift the blame away from you. When you just take it on, then everyone's like, okay, you were responsible and now it's over.
yeah.
It it changes everything.
For sure. Yeah. Well, I'd say like when you give the, I'm sorry, uh, there was this car accident. It's almost like saying you're really pretty, but you
Yeah.
know, and it's like, wait a minute, and now all of a sudden, like that other person is on the defense. Like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
Why am I the bad guy here?
Yeah. I'm sorry that those people messed up.
Right. Yeah, and it's funny. Like if you think about even just raising kids, and how often do your kids do things like that? Like I had to, right? Like this is what happened, and so I had to hit them, whatever whatever it was. And you go,
That's
oh
exactly.
come on. But
Yeah.
as an adult, there's nobody to tell you that you're full of crap, you know, and we feel really good about that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Total.
Well, all right. So now, if we're looking to find ways to take ownership, and even just bringing it to the forefront, so we can start identifying it. We've got a few steps that can help you take ownership of your life and overcome your obstacles. So, what do we got, Eric?
So step one is identifying where you're doing this. So a lot of times, like, where do you feel most stuck in life? And I mean, we've hit the big ones of like your health, maybe your eating habits, your work, uh, family, relationship stuff. Like, where do you feel like you're spinning your wheels? Um, and then as you start to narrow that down, you can start to look at your language and the way that you talk about those things, because that is a dead giveaway.
Yeah.
If you're using projections, you're always talking about what other people are doing. That person screwed up this, whatever. Those people, they just don't like me, so I can't do whatever. I have these obligations to over here, so I can't do that. Right? Like you're just projecting on everything. And so that helps you narrow down where you are doing this, where you're giving up your ownership, and where you
Yeah.
can start to take it back.
And I think that's huge. And I think that just this process, even just working on that first, like noticing when you say I can't, or it wasn't my fault, or any of that stuff, and don't even do anything beyond that. Just start there and start going. All right, I can, and why can't I? Or like how can I? And now just start going over that conversation, because we don't even have to make an adjustment yet. It's like learn the language, learn what language you're using,
Hmm.
and start building off that. And you know what? Even like so actually I do it often here at the gym, and I'm sure that people get a little bit angry at it, because it does hurt, like especially if somebody calls you out on it. Like my kids will do it to me, because I'll catch them, and then when they catch me, I'm like,
Yeah.
don't use my words. but it takes a lot of getting used to just hear yourself, and start start identifying it all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
but what,
so then what do you do once you recognize uh where you are giving up ownership?
well, so then you got to start figuring out what is in your control and what is outside of it. So when you all right, I was late, and now you go, all right, why was I late? and you go, all right, there was a little bit of traffic, and there was a snowstorm, or whatever it is, and you start going, all right, what could I have done about that? And you go, all right, if there's traffic, and hey, if I'm repeatedly 5 minutes late, it's like, number one, I just need to leave earlier. I have a habit of leaving, say that I'm supposed to be somewhere at 8 o'clock, and I'm leaving at 7:50. Well, guess what? I need to start leaving at 7:45. Or if it's snowy, I can assume that I'm going to have maybe 15 minutes more of a commute. And so when I see that weather, I need to go, hey, um, I'm going to have to wake up a little bit earlier tomorrow, because this is a possibility. And so now you can start planning for um, things that might come up.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love this part because you you can acknowledge that there are things outside of your control.
Mhm.
Like there are massive snowstorms
Right.
and freak accidents, car accidents, whatever. Like
Hmm.
there are things that show up that get in your way, that screw up your plans, and you can acknowledge that stuff.
Yep.
So I always think the word excuse, there's this connotation that it's made up. There are legitimate excuses. Like there are actual hurdles in your way for like
Right.
a lot of the time, but dwelling on them does not help.
Right.
Right? So acknowledge those things. They're outside of your control. And now, what can you do?
Right.
Maybe it's not perfect, but it's better than nothing. Like you can make a change.
Yeah. Ben Bergeron talked about this one time, and what did he say? Um, Shoot, things outside your control. Oh man, I had something really good, but
I know what you're talking about. I've seen it.
yeah. But actually, I mean, for all he talks about it a lot, especially training high level CrossFit athletes.
Mm,
And there's so many things that are outside of their control, right? So in CrossFit, actually the CrossFit Open's coming up, and in CrossFit, or in the Open, there are going to be 3 workouts this year. They're announced on Thursday, and you have till Monday to do them. And you don't have control over what the movements are, what the time frame is, all these things that you
whether
do have
your
control.
gym is open or not, if
Yeah,
you have
whether
equipment.
exactly, like all these things. So you can go into it and go, well, I'm not going to do it because I'm not ready, or because all these problems. And it's like, no, like one of the things that we train for is to be able to do the unknown and the unknowable. And it's like I can take any obstacle, and I'm going to give it a go. And guess what? I might not be the best, but I'm going to be putting in the work, wherever it needs to be. And yeah, dude, I mean, yeah, what if I don't have pull-ups? Well, all right, then I'm going to get to the pull-ups and stop. You know what I mean? And guess
Right.
what? Next year, I'm going to be working on them,
Totally.
because I know that that's going to be my weakness.
Yeah. When they did the open workout, like 2 years ago or 3 years ago, that started with muscle ups,
Yeah,
and there were what, I don't know, millions of people who were just pissed off.
yeah,
They're like, oh, what the heck? And then there were a lot of people who got their first muscle up.
yep, absolutely.
It's up
Yeah,
to you.
and actually, I think that was the same year where the scaled version was pull-ups, and
Hmm.
people were like, "What?" you know. And once again, you got people who got their first pull-ups, and if they didn't, guess what you do? You you put a zero, and that for you got 365 days to get a pull-up, or get a muscle up, start
Hmm.
working. And yeah, so you go, hey, that was a really crappy hand that I got dealt. It's like, yep, but now what do we do?
Yeah. How'd
You
you
know,
respond?
yeah, yeah. I think that that's so huge when you start looking at what is coming out at you. Yeah. All right. So we got, we're starting to identify the things um, that are outside of your control, and then things that are within our control. And then where do we go from there?
Now you keep your focus on what's in your control. So you talk about and you act on those things that are within your control, that are moving you forward. Because I mean, we've talked a lot about uh, how much your language ties into this,
Mhm.
right? Because they're the objective facts of I'm in my car, I'm going this fast, and there are other cars in the way, and I have no way around it. Those are the objective facts, and I'm late. The story that you tell about those objective facts is what's going to determine whether or not you take ownership, right? Are you telling the story that these people are driving slow to try to make me late and it's not my fault? Or are you telling yourself the story that I should have planned better and I should have taken a different route. I knew that this could happen and I could have made a different decision,
Yeah.
right? So you've got the objective facts and then your story about that. How are you interpreting it? So that's how you want to talk about these things, the things that are in your control, and then act on them. And that I think that happens naturally. The more, we said recognize where you're feeling stuck and where you're using that language of like giving up ownership. Once you recognize that and you're aware of it, you start to catch it more and more. And then once you start to catch it faster, then you're going to start to change the language you're using before you even have to catch it. And if you start changing the stories that you're telling yourself, now you're going to start changing your actions
Yeah.
to fit the story that you're telling of I have ownership of these things. I can change them and I can control them. So it all, it's a waterfall, it's a cascade of start
Yeah.
to adjust the story you're telling. And now you're going to start to affect your actions around those things.
Yeah. Yeah. If you keep on using, let's just say, like, well, for lack of a better term, your excuses. So as soon as you say them, uh, then we're no longer looking for a solution. But as soon as you take that responsibility, you like, I don't think there's anybody in their right mind that wouldn't start looking for ways to fix that, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, so just that change, it automatically it brings action. And guess what? You're still going to screw up, you know. But you start moving closer towards being the person that you want to be because you can control it.
Mm-hmm.
You're the alchemist.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the one of the most fun ways is when you start to notice the language of, like they screwed me.
Yeah.
Is take that and switch the other person to you. So they screwed me becomes I screwed me.
Yeah.
And then you're like, yes, I did. Okay.
I'm a jerk.
Yeah. And now you can start to stop screwing yourself over.
Yeah. Well, cool. Yeah. So, all right, you guys, we've got ownership. So, taking ownership of everything so you can start building everything that you want. So, overcoming obstacles and just unlocking your potential once we start taking control of our life. So, to recap, we've got you have to notice when you're feeling stuck, and we have to start talking about our language. And so when you hear yourself using these words, or like excuse words, I'm going to call them, notice it. And then once you notice it, we can change that language and start looking at what's in our control, what's outside of our control, and then we can start acting on the things that are within our control. Does that sound about good, Eric?
Absolutely. Yeah. And one other thing I'll add is noticing the language that you're using isn't always the easiest because you've used it for so long. It becomes a pattern, but you can start to notice it in other people. So like I said, if you like watch the news or go on Facebook and start to notice other people using this kind of language, then it's going to start to stand out and you can be like, oh, they should they should reflect back on themselves.
We love to point fingers. It's so
Yep.
much easier.
Yep. And that's a good exercise for recognizing the language and then start recognizing it in your own head.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. And who doesn't like to point out everyone else's flaws?
Yeah.
All right, you guys, we're going to wrap it up there. Thank you for watching. Do that, but better. And we're going to be here next week, Tuesdays at 2 o'clock. And let us know in the comments, where are some places in your life that you need to take a little bit more ownership. All right, and we'll see you next week.
All right. See you later.